Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly calls this movie a thrillingly effective crowd pleaser. Richard Schickel of Time magazine calls it an extraordinarily well-made movie which wastes no words or images in telling a conventional but compelling story. And Amazon user Mama Mena said, "I don't recall buying this," and then gave it 1 star. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of A Few Good Men.
Sequel. Reboot.
Childhood Podcast.
Which one will it be?
Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to the final installment of Tom Cruise Month on Ruined Childhoods. Hey, John, how you doing?
I am doing great. I've been having a wonderful Tom Cruise month. I've been sliding across floors wearing my socks and my skivvies. I've been I realigned my teeth for the month so that they're slightly off.
I read Dianetics.
Well, you joined Scientology briefly.
I joined the Church of Science just because I'm like, it is Tom Cruise month. I'm going all in, baby.
I jumped on a couch. It's been really exciting. I mean,
married Katie Holmes to mask my I mean, what? It's Tom Cruise month. Yay!
Yeah. And Dan, you did your own stunts, and that's the most impressive one of all.
I do my own stunts every time. I will jump off of anything. I don't care. If they can put me on the moon and let me jump off the moon and land on the bad guy's plane, I will do it.
I'm going to let everybody know.
Tom Cruise, not Dan.
I'm going to let everybody know with all sincerity and in all honesty, I definitely do my own stunts. I don't have anybody else falling on my ass. I do it myself.
Yeah. You know what?
In honor of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So, Dan, I am so happy to be talking about A Few Good Men with you on this episode. I was like, this night? No. What if people are listening in the morning? This week? What if we miss next? I don't know. Anyway,
At this time, I mean, you know, I'm looking forward to talking about it.
yes. So if anybody is new to this show or hasn't been listening the past several episodes, Dan is actually about to present to the world. What's that?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. From the night we're recording this. So the play opens November 7th.
Yeah, they're doing A Few Good Men at an unnamed Seattle high school that you can easily Google.
I'm pretty sure we're the only one doing A Few Good Men for the fall play. So, I mean, I haven't looked.
So I don't really have anything to talk about before A Few Good Men. I think that there was something that came up about a remake, but whatever. We don't have to go into that.
I saw the new Star Wars trailer.
Oh, what'd you think?
The final well, you know, it's as I think that the Star Wars movies have all got excellent trailers.
That is true.
Like, they all have excellent. Attack of the Clones has a fantastic trailer.
It looks pretty. But it looks like a gorgeous movie.
It does look. Yes, that was my initial, like, visually. This is going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm considering. I know that the Cinerama in Seattle will be playing it,
yeah.
and that is a humongous screen. So I'm thinking about checking it out there. But, you know, it's the end of now what they're calling it the Skywalker saga.
Right.
So, you know, making room for the Star Wars universe that is just going to, like, explode upon Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I mean, people seem to be really excited about was it The Mandalorian? Is that what it's called?
The Mandalorian, yeah, Jon Favreau.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it. Now knowing that I apparently get Disney Plus free for a year with my phone plan.
Oh, all right.
Verizon unlimited plans, get it for free for a year. So
no kidding. Oh, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So
we're
I was
not
like-
sponsored, folks. This is legit.
yeah, so I figured, you know what? May as well. Plus, my kid has been really into the song Hakuna Matata lately. I don't know where she heard it, but she did, and she's really into it.
Probably at school. Yeah, or probably at daycare.
Yeah, some kid started singing it. I don't think that they really listen to music there, but
Oh no.
not in,
there's
not in her
this-
current classroom.
Well, it's just like in her class, there's these two new kids. One is this kind of like, skinny, funny little meerkatish type. And the other is kind of this bigger, kind of, not as quick warthog type. And they just started singing the song
Tons of farting.
about it being their problem. Hey, John, not in front of the kids.
Okay, so listening to Hakuna Matata, just to take a quick detour away from A Few Good Men, it's been a while since I've listened to Hakuna Matata, and when that moment comes up when he is about to say farted, and Timon says not in front of the kids, and then they like kind of give a look, it made me realize, like, I don't think that I ever realized as a kid that that's what was going on, that's what they were going to say. And because I never realized that that was a thing that kids shouldn't hear, the word fart.
Well, in our house.
Well, I mean, hello, but still, I mean, and in the,
What did you think it was?
I never even thought about it. It was just like, oh, that's whatever. But in the new version, I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard the song with Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen and Donald Glover. It's he says it, and then they like kind of make a comment about how they said it.
Yeah. I heard. I listened to it. I haven't seen I haven't seen it yet, but I listened to it and I was a little caught off guard by that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we're here to talk about A Few Good Men.
Few Good Men. So, yeah, the 1992 film directed by Rob Reiner with a screenplay written by Aaron Sorkin, who based it on his play, which hit Broadway in November, actually I think November 15th, 1989.
Oh, okay.
Was, so, right now they
years
would have been
ago.
in previews.
And this is based on a real event that happened.
It is.
Which
It is.
I was thinking about. So, Dan, you haven't heard this yet, but in the introduction to this episode, we have reviews from some elite critics, but I also peppered in an Amazon review from a user named Mama Mena, and it was a 1-star review saying, "I don't recall buying this item," and that I don't know, And I was looking through some of the other 1-star reviews, and one of them was like going on and on and on about how unbelievable this story is, and like how this could never happen. And it's like, it did happen.
What qualifications did this person have to say these things?
They watched the movie.
Oh, that's it.
They have
this
an
wasn't
Amazon
like
account.
I'm a retired colonel, and this would have this type of thing. Yeah, no, and I mean, as we get into our discussion, I will, part of what I have to discuss is how my production, kind of the steps that we're taking to be accurate and believable, to the extent that a high school production can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to get into that after we...
Well, let's kind of introduce the film and talk about, the plot and the performances. I mean, this movie was nominated for a ton of Academy Awards.
Right.
I don't know if it won
I don't
any.
think it won any.
No, I think it was nominated for a lot and did not win.
Yeah, which, I mean, watching it now, and I believe I've seen it when I was much younger, but I, couldn't take my eyes off of it. It was really engaging for a movie that's nearly 30 years old, it's like, you know, I easily slipped into it. I feel like a lot of movies that, I don't know, from around that time that are over 2 hours long, that are a subject matter that isn't typically my go-to. So like, you know, legal dramas, which this, I think it's drama, but it's, you know, it's got an energy to
military
it.
legal drama.
Yeah.
I mean, it's military, and it's about this whole separate world that, you know, it especially, so I guess, all right, no time like the present for this, but I remember when and where I saw it.
Please go on.
I'm pretty sure I saw it opening weekend at the Westfield Rialto.
Rest in peace.
The recently shuttered Rialto. And I remember leaving that movie. I never had better posture than when I walked out of that movie. Because after watching that movie, you are just like, oh my, like, I want to be that, you know, I left that movie kind of wanting to be more like those Marines. I mean, it did not last long, but, you know.
Well, I mean, rather than wanting to be an attorney, you decided to be an actor.
Well, that's true. I definitely wanted I wanted to be in that movie. And I mean, actually, so 10 and a half years ago, I was in the play.
Oh, were you? I didn't
back
know
in
that.
my acting days. Yeah.
Which character were you?
Who do you think I was?
Okay. Were you one of the main characters?
Yeah.
Were you Sam Weinberg?
Yes. Of course I was. I have no responsibilities here whatsoever. I'm in charge of socks and underwear.
So Sam Weinberg in the movie is played by Kevin Pollak, who's great. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to briefly run down the cast, you know, Tom Cruise plays Caffey. I think it's
Lieutenant Daniel Caffey.
Daniel Caffey.
Lieutenant junior grade Daniel Caffey.
Jack Nicholson, who is in Witches of Eastwick with Susan Sarandon, plays Colonel Jessup, famously.
Susan Sarandon of Lorenzo's Oil.
The one and only. And Demi Moore plays Joe, who is the... I don't know the lieutenant colonel.
Lieutenant commander.
Lieutenant commander who has this case come in. We'll go into the plot and we'll explain that in a little bit. Kevin Bacon plays Jack, who is the prosecutor.
Yes.
Now
he's a Marine.
He's a Marine, correct? And Kevin Bacon and Susan Sarandon of Lorenzo's Oil were in a movie called Mountain High that is fictional. But it is in the show Seinfeld, in the episode where Kramer has the number one off from Movie Phone. One of the fictional movies from Seinfeld stars Kevin Bacon and Susan Sarandon, and it's called Mountain High.
Oh, wow. Jeez. I mean, man, you're going to the deep tracks.
Kiefer Sutherland plays Kendrick, and... then we've got Downey and Dawson. I don't remember Downey and Dawson.
Downey and Dawson.
And I don't remember which is which, but one of them is James from Twin Peaks, and the other one is just a guy.
Dawson.
He's Dawson, and Downey was played by just a guy who was like on the crew.
He was a location scout.
Yeah, and and Rob
He's
Reiner
great.
was like, "You look like a Marine," and just put him in the movie.
Yeah,
and
Wolfgang Bodison,
and he's awesome.
Props to Wolfgang Bodison. Yeah, he's
he wasn't the prop master. He was location scout.
Nope. Okay. So
you said props to him.
Anyway. Oh my.
Anyways.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm pulling long days here. So anyway, so back to Kiefer Sutherland. Sorry, he plays Lieutenant Kendrick, who is he's in charge of like one half of the Guantanamo Bay naval base. He's in charge of the windward side, which is where Dawson and Downey are both stationed.
And I don't remember the actor's name, but another character of note is Santiago. Santiago is the core
William
of the
Santiago.
movie. William Santiago, who has been having a lot of issues at Guantanamo Bay with his unit, and has been requesting a transfer out of Guantanamo Bay, and ultimately sends a letter requesting for transfer, threatening to expose a fence shooting. Is that what it's called?
Fence line shooting. Somebody in his unit. Dawson. Well, we'll find out later is Dawson. It's not a spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah. But we don't know that until a little bit. But anyway, he fires around into the air by the fence line, which is, the other side of it is just Cuba and people who are just kind of like allegedly looking for a reason to, start something. So that has kind of sparked this whole thing that involves Colonel Jessup, who, as we see, instructs Kendrick, Kiefer Sutherland's character, to work him harder and make sure that he gets, higher marks. Wink. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What ends up happening is Downey and Dawson come into Santiago's room. They bound and gag him, and it ultimately results in his death. And that's what really sparks all of this movie. Mm-hmm. So, and you're just kind of watching me try to retell the story, even though I know that you know it like the back of your hand.
Well, John, yeah, and that's why I know that if you, when you're ready for me to jump in, you'll let me know.
All right, sounds good. So I'll just keep on going. So Joe, Demi Moore's character, the lieutenant commander, is that what it is?
Yeah, she's from the Judge Advocate General.
The JAG.
JAG Corps.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the show JAG, then you know what Joe's
Mark
job.
Mark
Harmon, summer school. Anyway, so Joe is the one who brings this to the, I guess, the legal counsel for the military, and Kathy is assigned to the case. And Kathy is known for, being like a bit of a slacker, but he's really good at negotiating plea deals. So he's brought in essentially to just make this go away. And Sam Weinberg, Kevin Pollak, is the more responsible attorney who is kind of there to babysit him, make sure he stays on task. And the two of them, Kevin Pollak and Tom Cruise, I think, have really great working chemistry in the movie.
I agree.
Yeah. It allegedly was supposed to be Jason Alexander talking about Seinfeld. But I feel...
Boom, boom, boom. Well, that's because... that was why. Seinfeld is the reason. Because they weren't expecting that Seinfeld was going to get renewed, and then it did.
And Kevin Pollak is great.
Yeah.
I always enjoy Kevin Pollak. So, yes. So Joe and Kathy and Sam are kind of working on this case to try to clear the names of Downey and Dawson. Even though, yes, they did bound and gag Santiago, but they're claiming that it was done on the orders of a code red by Kendrick, Kiefer Sutherland's character. Mm-hmm. And Dan, why don't you explain a code red, because that's an important factor in this, and I don't want to screw it up.
Yes. So a code red is not an official term, but what it is it represents a disciplinary action that's carried out by fellow members of your squad that's meant to if a cadet falls back on runs, drops their weapon, makes the squad look bad in general, then they get a code red. Like one of the characters, Corporal Howard, who's played by Noah Wyle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He talks about how he got a code red once because his palms were sweaty and knees weak, arms are heavy. Sorry. I was just listening to some Eminem earlier. So he drops his weapon because, it's really hot because they're in Cuba. And he goes to so then his like they hold him down and they pour glue all over his hands, but then as he says, they take him out for a beer.
Right.
So that's his code red, and he's like, I've never dropped my weapon since then. So it's like, as this guy testifies, code reds work, and that's Jessup says that at one point, in just describing kind of the practice of code reds and kind of saying like, look, I'm not going to publicly condone it, but it's an effective method of training.
Yes, and as we all know, Guantanamo Bay is known for effective methods.
And being by the book, of course.
Oh, well, I was referring to all the torture that famously...
Yeah. So was I. Yeah.
So, and Code Red is also a flavor of Mountain Dew. So, so they're claiming...
That was actually a concern. I was actually concerned at one point that because I'm doing this as like a high school production that high school kids are seeing, if that is going to like lead to some confusion.
Well, you could have changed the name of it to like, who ordered the Arctic Chill? And then you'd be like, damn it. I'm just assuming that's
who
the
ordered
name.
the Powerade Zero?
That would be Dad.
Yeah. My drink.
Oh, yes. None of you understand
Bring me
that.
my drink. It's whatever.
So, right.
Yeah. So that's what a code red is.
And the ultimate ruling about the death is that it was a poisoning carried out by Downey and Dawson. The rag that they put in his mouth, the claim is that there was a poison on it. That is substantiated by the doctor, played by Christopher Guest. Gotta love a Christopher Guest, Rob Reiner collab.
I really, it wasn't until I was, kind of really focusing on this film more when I was casting the play, and it hadn't occurred to me until then that I was like, oh, Christopher Guest and Rob, because I think, didn't Rob Reiner maybe produce Waiting for Guffman?
Oh, I don't know.
Or... Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting, the whole Spinal Tap, Princess Bride, and so we've now we've got 2 out of the 3.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever come near Spinal Tap.
No.
Just out of respect.
It's sacred.
Yeah,
it's sacred.
That's what we do this podcast for. What is sacred?
That's true. Anyway, getting back to the Code Red.
Sure.
The Code Red is not intended to kill Santiago. Right. But it is ruled as a poisoning. So now it is showing that Dawson, basically the story that they're going with was that Dawson and Downey just took it too far. That's like kind of the official, Jessup's word on it. Anyway, I'm sorry, we're not getting into plot yet, are we?
Here's where I'm going to put in a very Seinfeldian yada, 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 and say that film is about 30 years old. You've had plenty of time to see it. What's up?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, John, we're neglecting to mention a fantastic actor in the movie, J.T. Walsh, playing Captain Matthew A. Markinson, who is Jessup's right-hand man, but also really the one with the moral backbone.
I knew you were going to say moral backbone.
Well, because that's really the accurate... I mean, that's like, it's how you would describe... How else would you describe that character?
Yeah, moral backbone.
I mean, that's all I'm going to say for right now about that character. But J.T. Walsh is excellent. He's got he has a great chemistry with Nicholson and Sutherland.
I thought you were going to say he has a great chemistry with Nick Nolte and then go into a Lorenzo's Oil link.
John, I'm so sorry. You take the Lorenzo's Oil championship for the week because I am just like, you know what? I took it last time and
you definitely did.
Have had no time. Like all I got right now is Tropic Thunder. And that's like, the old fallback.
Hey, it works.
So, I mean, Tom Cruise to Margot Martindale in The Firm or Days of Thunder.
Yeah. So,
but Margot Martindale's not in this movie. So,
nope. Anyway, you were just talking about Walsh. You just wanted to mention.
I mean, J.T. Walsh, because he's a great character actor who passed away, like, I want to say 97, 98.
Oh, really?
Heart disease. But he's one of those guys who, like, if you've seen movies from the 80s or especially the 90s, like, you've seen everything from, like, the Miracle on 34th Street remake. He's
just one of those, that guy kind of people.
Yeah, but he's really good. I really like him.
Yeah, and so he is in the meeting that you see between Jessup and Kendrick, where he tells him, to push Santiago harder or whatever at the beginning, and then he comes in later. He essentially comes to Kathy to tell him a little bit, give him information that can really. He's essentially saying to put Jessup on the stand, and he gives Kathy. It's inadmissible evidence, but it's evidence that and like John said, you've had time to watch it. He put Kathy on. He wants Kathy to put Jessup on the stand, and basically says, like, no, Jessup told Kendrick to order the code red. Like, yeah. So which means it's Jessup ordered the code red. But Jessup is saying, like, no, there wasn't a code red, and Santiago was going to be transferred, and, like, he was supposed to be transferred the next morning. Yeah. No, it's
one point that
go on.
Sorry, one point they never really bring up. I mean, because they do, the lawyers do their jobs, but one point they never really bring up is, like, if he was going to be transferred, wouldn't his squad leader know about it? And then why would his squad leader give him a code red if he was going to be on a plane at 6 a.m.?
Well, you can deal with that in your high school production.
No, I'm just going to totally rewrite it.
Take that, Sorkin. So,
look, he's a hack. No, I'm just kidding. Aaron Sorkin, I know you're not listening, but I am a fan of
We don't know
work.
that. I don't know.
Aaron Sorkin. So, I mean, maybe this is the opportunity to praise Aaron Sorkin then.
I think Aaron Sorkin's great. I mean, even the ones that people think lesser of, I kind of enjoyed. Studio 60, Newsroom.
Studio 60, I thought, so, and not to mention, like, The American President.
American President's great.
Molly's Game. Didn't he write the script for The Social Network?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
I know he wrote the script for the Jobs movie with Michael Fassbender.
Right. I mean,
yeah, that was hey, look, we all get a miss sometimes. But so in The West Wing, I mean, geez.
Yeah.
So, and this was when I was in the play. I was so excited that I got to do, like, Sorkin dialogue. Like, I got to sound smart.
Yeah, and this was allegedly the first time where there was the Sorkin
the walk and
talk, the signature move for a Sorkin piece, where people are walking down a hallway and talking at each other really fast and passionately, and I brings up a story from my past. I was working on some TV show, like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, and I was like pitching an idea for something in some show I was working on, some stupid reality show that, like, does not deserve a passionate hallway walk and talk. And I was, like, with our, like, executive producer, and I was trying to explain why this one thing would be a good idea. And, like, as I was, like, passionately talking about it, I got really into it. And then I just said at the end of it, I feel like I'm in an Aaron Sorkin script right now. And then I walked into a wall.
Oh my!
Yeah, kind of.
What, a Sorkin / Zucker brothers?
Yeah, exactly.
Zucker Abrams. Zucker.
Well, yeah. I mean, I may as well have, like, slipped on a banana peel or something. It was comical.
It's a beautiful day today.
So
Speaking of Seinfeld,
yeah,
Michael.
Oh my
Michael
God,
Richards.
this is a Seinfeld heavy episode. So yeah, I mean, and then of course everything culminates in the final courtroom scene with the famous "You can't handle the truth" line, which is potentially the most parodied line in cinematic history.
It is number 29 on the top 100 like quoted lines for movies. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And it's great. It's effective, and it's like you could. I mean, watching that movie now, 20, 30 years, 25, 30 years later, it still has like such a huge impact, even though it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't. So, truth be told, I have not watched the movie in over a decade.
Oh, really?
Because, okay. Once I knew I was going to be doing the play, which would have been fall 2008. Or no, like spring 2008 actually was when the director, it was a theater group that I was working with in New Jersey, in Rahway, New Jersey. So Alliance Repertory Theater. And, was working with the director who I knew, and I was friends with, Michael Driscoll. And
Shout out Michael Driscoll.
My pour one out for Michael Driscoll, because Michael Driscoll passed away this
I was
past
afraid you were
spring.
going to say pour one out. That's a bummer.
Yeah, no, it was unexpected, and I hadn't seen him in years. We were kind of connected on social media and
The Social Network.
He was by Aaron Sorkin. He was one of those. He was one of those guys. Like that's what he lived for, was theater. And I had done a few shows with him. And when he said he was doing A Few Good Men, I was just like, I'm in. I don't like whatever. And it's not like I didn't have to audition. I auditioned, but he pretty much told me I was going to be playing Sam. And as soon as I knew I was going to be acting in this play, I didn't want any of the movie in my head any more than it already would be, because it's one of my, might not be top 10 for me. It's top 20. It's a movie that I definitely have seen a lot. And it's always going to be somewhere in the back of my head, but I didn't want to just do a Kevin Pollak impersonation. Right. And it's really hard to do it because he nailed the role, but I didn't watch the movie, and then we did the show, and I think I felt disappointed in my performance, and I kind of felt like the production could have been better. I mean, it was really good. Like, we had, the guy playing Jessup was awesome. Like, it was an awesome cast to work with.
I feel like...
in fact, one of the guys from the Trilogy podcast played Kathy.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Scott Cagney.
That's very cool. Shout out Scott Cagney.
Shout out to Scott Cagney. Yeah, no, but we had a great cast.
By the way, just
I really
just
loved
real quickly,
working with,
it's got to be so hard to play Jessup. Like, how do you not have him in your head? Seriously.
Well, therein lies the question. Therein lies why I never. Well, how do you not have him in the audience's head?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
How do you? I mean, this is. I mean, okay, so Tom. I mean, it's like one of probably the iconic Tom Cruise movies, but it's not like Tom Cruise isn't doing a Tom Cruise performance.
No, I mean, I think that he's it's a likable character, but there's no like signature, I don't know, vibe to him, Whereas Jessup has a vibe to him for sure.
Well, yes, and it's yeah, exactly. So it's got to be impossible to not have that in your head and not feel like, well, how else do you do it? which was the reason why I never thought I would ever be able to like direct this play. You know, much less, I don't think I would have ever thought of it as a high school play, and probably wouldn't have if I also hadn't kind of come up with a solution for the, you know, the Jack Nicholson problem, you know, the Jack Nicholson challenge.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want me to go into it or?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know if we had anything.
No, I mean,
to
we've
cover
gone over
before
we've gone over the plot. I mean, I'll just wrap things up by saying, like, as soon as he says, like, I ordered the code, he admits to ordering the code red, then Jack, Kevin Bacon's character, who has been, you know, very good prosecutor. You know, you can tell that he is the prosecutor because that's what he was assigned to do, and all of the evidence was in his favor up until that very moment. And, you know, he was very sure of himself the entire time that he was in the right. But as soon as that happened, he was like, that's it. We're done here.
He's a professional. He's not, he's, you know, like at one point, you know, he says, like, you know, I represent the people without passion. Like I am doing my job.
And I thought he was very good.
Exactly.
I thought he was very good because I feel like, especially around that time, you know, Kevin Bacon was, I don't know, never really always the best guy. I'm sure you can tell me one thing that he was in where he was.
Well, I mean, so JFK, Kevin Bacon. I thought Kevin Bacon and JFK, and he had like a supporting role, but I felt like it was really the first time that I had seen him not just do like Kevin Bacon, like
she's having
comedy,
a baby,
like she's having a baby. He said, she said, Kevin Bacon, or like Footloose, or Quicksilver, or anything else that he did in the 80s. But I thought, I was like, in JFK, I was like, oh man, I was like, Kevin Bacon is a good, like, he played this like hustler who happened to get involved with, you know, the characters played by Tommy Lee Jones and then like Lee Harvey Oswald. So, but Kevin Bacon was, that was, I think, the movie that really turned me around on him, you know, on his acting. And then, in A Few Good Men, he really gives a strong performance. But would you consider his performance to be the best in the movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like any answer to that would be a little tainted just because Jack Nicholson's role specifically in that movie is so iconic. But if you kind of block that out, I'd say it was a role that I was maybe moved by more than some of the other ones. Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Kevin Pollak, I feel like I was always feeling the same way about them, but it was Kevin Bacon's character where I was just like, there was a shift in me where like, right when it goes to him after he says, I order the code red and everything, you're just like, oh my God, please just be a good person. And he is, and he does absolutely the right thing. And, you know, I had more of an emotional reaction.
But you had some...
What's up?
You had some doubt in your mind, though, that he was going to do the right thing?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of it has to do with how I view a lot of Kevin Bacon roles. And I think that also he just has a look to him and a kind of a swagger to him throughout the movie where you're just like, I could see him just being a real ass. But I think that's what helps it, you know, when there is that turn where you're just like, yeah, okay, you know, I get it. He certainly felt like he was in the right. He was doing his job, and all of the evidence pointed in that direction. Yeah. So why should he have felt any differently? And he also, you know, outside of the courtroom and everything, when he had his interactions with Kathy, you know, he was cordial. He, you know, wasn't trying to be an ass at all. He was trying to say like, hey, you can get a really good plea with this.
I mean, he does say to him at one point, I mean, at least in the play, he does say to him, like, look, I'm your friend. He meets him at the bar. They're playing some UB40 at the bar.
There was a lot of UB40 in this movie. Maybe two instances of UB40.
Really? I thought it was just in the bar.
It's been 10 years since you've seen this movie. I just watched it the other day. There are at least 2 times when UB40 comes on.
Oh, no kidding. I don't know. Maybe you got the special edition with like extra UB40.
Well,
I don't know.
As we've discovered on the last episode, I apparently only watch director's cuts and never realize it. So
that's the director's cut. The only thing that's different is it's all UB40 music.
So it was originally
Rat in the Kitchen plays with Kendrick.
It got switched all to Tangerine Dream for the theatrical release, but it was originally UB40. Yeah. That'll make sense if you listen to the last episode.
And also to provide some context, we're also referencing my being a fan of the band UB40.
Dan is a huge fan of UB40.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's been meant. I think when we did Speed, we talked about that. When we covered the movie Speed.
So, and also, if it's the first time listening, Dan and I are brothers. Dan is like 5-6 years my senior, and I 5.5 years my senior. Yeah. And growing up, I thought that everybody listened to UB40. And I just thought that it was such a normal thing. Little did I know, this was a very unique thing for our family, that we were just always listening to UB40.
Look, you know what? It was like, there was just for a long time, and I listen to them every now and again now. It's I don't have the same connection to it now. But like for a long time, it was just like, they made music that just made me happy.
And you know what, Dan, to that, I salute you with my glass of red wine that I'm drinking right now. FYI, for your information.
Oh, he really is. No kidding.
So back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So, I think Kevin Bacon was really awesome in this movie. I mean, everybody was great, but he had the best turn. Well, I mean, Tom Cruise did have a really good turn also, because he was kind of going along, just doing his lazy lawyering. What?
And we should not neglect to mention, though, that this role, and this is as it is written in the play, daddy issues.
That's right. Yes, his father is like a famous military attorney.
Famous civil rights lawyer. He's a famous civil rights lawyer. Yeah. So they reference Jessup references tells Kendrick when he meets Kaffee that Kaffee's father was involved in a lawsuit against the Madison County Board of Education.
Oh, that's right.
Madison. Madison County, Alabama, and we're talking since, let's see, the play was written it premiered in 1989. So we're talking, not just a civil rights lawyer, but civil rights lawyer during the civil rights movement. And this is also, they wanted to say the Lord's Prayer in school, and that Lionel Kaffee, Danny Kaffee's father, wins the lawsuit that, I think in front of the Supreme Court, that rules that, they can't say the Lord's Prayer in public schools. And Jessup basically does it to needle Kendrick in the meeting when they're all meeting. And then Kendrick basically is a neo-Nazi and basically says as much. He has a line, "I don't like you people," and he pretty much directs it at Sam.
Right. That's
fun to do in a high school play.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so
going back to that.
Yeah. So last spring, so I guess the background here is I started teaching at this school 2 years ago, and at the end of my first year, the head of the theater department, who's also language arts teacher, asked me if I'd be interested in directing the school's fall play. Each year they do 3 shows. It's a straight play in the fall, a student directed, usually a comedy in the
that's cool.
the winter, and then there's the spring musical. Yeah, it's an awesome program. Like I say it every year, but like I'm lucky to be a part of
great.
it, and I'm lucky that he had invited. Like I was asked to do this based on the fact that like I had a bachelor's degree in theater and had lived in New York and did theater, so there was a lot of blind faith.
And also I know that this doesn't qualify you to direct high school plays, but when you were in high school, you were in all of the plays, and not just like a side character. You were usually a lead character.
Past my freshman year, my freshman year, I had a couple of featured roles, but yeah, and I directed back when I was living back east. I directed a few shows at a middle school out in New Jersey that were, I mean. Like I never really had much training in directing, but I feel like if it's the type of show where when I read it, I just kind of have a really clear vision of it that's not based on anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, you also directed the play Hamlet 2, not the movie Hamlet 2.
That was the first play I directed.
Yeah, that was just a local production. I mean, you kind of got the whole thing going with not by yourself.
I had a ton of energy and a ton of support, and but yeah, we produced that at the Temple Emmanuel.
Yeah, that was the venue, but
But Hamlet 2, but yeah, that was the first, and because I read that play and I was just like, my God, I know exactly how I would do this. And, it's like the reality of it is it's never, or I shouldn't say it's never, but it's not like it's exactly what you picture, but it almost it kind of becomes it. And, casting is always, casting is often such a big challenge because, especially when you're doing like community theater or school theater. And I mean, the first musical I directed was Fame.
Oh, yeah.
And I directed this at a middle school in a wealthier area in New Jersey, like upper middle / upper class, upper middle. And like Fame has a ton of characters who are not white. We didn't have any kids auditioning for the plays who weren't white. So just one character became the character who has a rap and everything. I had this kid who could break dance, and I was just like, okay, you're in this role and you're going to be Italian, and now your name is like Tony DiGiorno. And it was like, it's not
Tony
DiGiorno. It's DiGiorno. Flash forward to last year, I directed Neil Simon's play Fools. That was the first thing I did there. And, it was such an amazing experience. And actually, truth be told, this podcast was born out of that
was it really?
Because other than like just kind of writing on the side, I really didn't have a creative outlet. I really haven't had like a creative outlet. Sure. I mean, in teaching and designing lessons, there's creativity and all that, but, more of like a performance creative outlet. And, ever since I had started listening to podcasts, which would probably be like yours.
I'm so sorry.
Cause I think I was between yours and Big Kev's Geek Stuff. Which was actually the first podcast I was ever on.
Right. Yeah.
Was Big Kev's Geek Stuff, circa like 2006. But anyway, I never really thought like, oh, this is an idea that's something like, I don't know, maybe interesting or something that like I could see myself like, having a interesting conversation about. But
you just said, I just want to talk about, maybe not even talk about, but say the words Lorenzo's Oil once a week. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to find a way.
Yeah, I really don't know how I'm going to do it this week. But so I directed the play last year, and it was like after the play, I had that like, okay, well, I'm not directing a play for another year. So that was when, kind of around that time when we spoke and started this thing up 37 episodes ago. Yeah. So, and of course I started reading plays and thinking about what I was going to do, for this fall. Cause I'm like, well, now I have a lot of time and I can really plan and I can be ready and I can, I know what resources I have. I have a good sense of the talent pool. And so I just started reading plays and finding a good play to do at a high school these days that's going to like get people excited is really difficult because it's either for me, it's like, okay, there's a play like, let's say, Rumors by Neil Simon, which is about like, I think 3 or 4 different middle-aged couples living on like the Upper East Side of New York City in the late 1980s and like this dinner party. And I read that play and I was just like, I feel like if I went and saw high school kids doing this, I would be distracted by the fact that they have absolutely none of the life experience, which granted, A Few Good Men isn't quite the exception, but...
There's a new show on Amazon called Modern Love, and it's like it's like an anthology series. Each episode is a different moment in time for like a relationship, and one of the episodes, which features John Slattery and Tina Fey, their son is in a production of like all teenagers in Glengarry Glen Ross, and
Oh my God. Oh my God. So one of the ideas I toyed around with, I bought a copy of Glengarry Glen Ross and was going to adapt it so that all of the profanity was replaced. I was going to do basically like the edited for television Glengarry Glen Ross, and call it Glengarry Glen Ross Jr. because there's a whole line of like the junior version of musicals, like Into the Woods Jr. And it's like, yeah, we take out all the rough stuff and we simplify it so that kids can do it. So I totally thought about adapting Glengarry Glen Ross into Glengarry Glen Ross Jr. So
that would be super funny.
Amused. Yeah, I gotta watch this episode.
You'll enjoy that very much.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's the thing is like you find yourself wanting to do that, and then you read about high schools in New Jersey doing Alien for their like fall play, and it's like, well, like, man, what can I do? Like, what can I do and I also had some kids, like, I've got some, just really talented kids that I wanted to find really good roles for. I didn't want to keep going. And so many of the fallbacks, so many of the, the kind of traditional high school plays really, and I mean like in the past 15 years have become very dated. And like even a play like Arsenic and Old Lace, which I directed, that was the last play I directed at that. No, it wasn't the last play I directed at that middle school. I directed it at that middle school and I love it. And it's a great play, but I'm like, oh God, like it's like one of the, like the love interest is she's like just the love interest. And it's so frustrating. And I mean, I know what you're thinking. So you chose a play that has 14 men and 1 woman in it. So it was last spring that Mike Driscoll passed away, and I heard about that and, thought about A Few Good Men, it was the last play I did with him. It was the last play I did in general. So I kind of thought about that and I was like, oh, damn, it's too bad. Like, oh, I could never direct that. I could probably never do it at the high school. And then I just kind of started thinking, I was like, well, what's stopping me for, like, why wouldn't I do this show? And I kind of started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, it's the Jessup challenge. It's the Jack Nicholson challenge. It's the, how do you get the audience to not be thinking of Jack Nicholson and not be expecting you to do You Can't Handle the Truth exactly like Jack Nicholson. And I thought to myself, well, what if Jessup was a woman? If you have Jessup, not like, because if you have Jessup as a man, I feel like you run the risk of the audience is expecting Jack Nicholson. But I don't think when the audience it's not like, a woman couldn't do a Jack Nicholson performance, but I thought about this character and I was like, okay, well, all right, but we don't just, gender swap for the sake of doing it. So how could this work? How could this character be believable? And I thought to myself, well, okay, so let's say, first of all, you bump up the setting. The play was originally set in 1986. I'm like, okay, what about 1996? And then you think to yourself, like, okay, so there's definitely much more female enlistment and more, women as officers. And I started to think, like, okay, all right, like, so that aspect could work. And then it's like, all right, so what about like the code red? Why would she order the code red? And late last spring, heard an interview with Julia Louis-Dreyfus on Pod Save America. And she was talking about Veep and talking about Selena Kyle and how Selena Kyle, Selena Meyer. Selena Kyle's Catwoman, sorry. Congratulations, Zoe Kravitz.
For a second, I was like, that doesn't sound right. Why doesn't that sound right?
No, I know. Selena Meyer. So she was talking about playing the character on Veep and like how, because they were talking about this moment in the last season where she kind of tells another female candidate to man up. And she uses that phrase, man up. And she talks about how, and they establish in the series that, as a child, she was not like, her father wanted a boy. And she was, how this character was kind of raised to, to kind of like dislike weakness. And to like try to avoid looking weak. And, in order, because also she's a woman in in this man's world of politics, she's trying to, crash the boys club. So how do you do that? And Julia Louis-Dreyfus talked about, how you kind of have to be better than the men at everything, including being a misogynist. And so whereas she, has that permission, has that license to say, man up to a woman on the debate stage, whereas, she doesn't totally lose everything from that. So hearing that interview really inspired me and made me think about how I would direct a young woman as Jessup, and kind of like, all right, let's say, she's too young to have served in Vietnam, but maybe maybe someone in her family did, or maybe she kind of always feels like she missed out on something, and what's driving her, because ultimately the way that she describes why she orders the code red, she doesn't transfer Santiago because she's like, no, he's a weak link. Like, we have to train him. He's a Marine. We have to train him. He needs to man up. Which she doesn't say that exactly, but she says, what are we saying if we just transfer him? So I directed the actress playing Jessup to be like, that would be maternal. And you don't want you can't have anyone view you as weak. I have her doing the role very soft spoken because I was like, the stereotypical excuse of, well, we can't have a female president because women are emotional and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And
There you
Julia
go.
Louis-Dreyfus is another Seinfeld tie. Holy cow. So kind of having her play Jessup as just very calm, cool, and collected almost always, and kind of like laughing things off and saying like, I am not going to lose my composure no matter what, and I'm not going to baby Santiago. Like, we're going to train him. We're going to train the lad, she says. And, so she ends up ordering the code red, and she gives this explanation on the stand, about how, it's very, it can come across maybe a little MAGA because she goes like, we live in a country that has walls, though she doesn't mean it. She doesn't mean it in the same way. She means it as, we have borders and there are, and at that time were enemies. And so she gives, this justification, and she's like, look, what do you do when you have someone who signs up to be a Marine? It's like, our job is to train Marines. Like, they come to us for training. So it's like, when you're supposed to train someone who's weak, you do what you need to do to train them. And we know that at Guantanamo Bay, we do what we need to do. But so like her giving this justification, and we'll see where the performance is in 2 weeks when we open. But like, at first I really had not, I've been like, my one thing is like, do not shout, you can't handle the truth. I wanted her to laugh. Right. I wanted her to look at Kathy and laugh and just be like, you can't handle the truth. And it just so happens, and it's like, this is with theater, you have to you can't go against the tide. So, and the scene has been building nicely to her kind of shouting that you can't handle the truth. And now we kind of tried something different at our rehearsal tonight. Not with her shouting you can't handle the truth, but it's like the whole thing is, she's on the witness stand. She's got this whole monologue. And in the movie, when Nicholson does it, they're cutting away during it. There's close-ups, there's wide shots, there's reaction shots. You don't have that luxury in the play. So she's been doing a great job of she's been doing it from the chair and doing, getting the leaning out and looking over at where Weinberg is for the you, Lieutenant Weinberg. It's more thinly veiled anti-Semitism. So we kind of tried this thing where it's like, okay, it's theater. Like, what if we have a little shift in lighting and you get up for this? And I have her addressing, it was slightly inspired by going back to JFK, like kind of Kevin Costner's, big courtroom speech with, his closing statement in JFK. I have her addressing the audience at certain points, like when she was like, when she says, you want me on that wall, you need me on that wall. I have her looking at the audience. I have her looking at the audience when she's like, when she says we live in a world that has walls and they need to be guarded by people with guns. And it's like, you can agree with her or disagree with her, but she really, like I told her, I was like, you really have to believe that you're right. And we want the audience to kind of have a moment where they think, she's got a point.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people are going to come see it, and you know, I hope people come see it, and I'm sure that they're going to, you know, think Jack Nicholson, and I mean, that's the first thing anyone says when you tell them you're doing this play is, you can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
And my reaction is usually like, yeah, there's other lines.
I mean, Aaron Sorkin, because I know you're listening, you know, book your ticket to Seattle. Check it out.
Yeah, and Mr. Sorkin, if you're interested in a production or in a few tickets, some free tickets, you can email us at ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com.
Dan, I think he can afford a few tickets.
Yeah, what? Aaron Sorkin's going to come and we're going to be like, do you have a reservation? Okay, because with reservations it's 10, but at the door it's 15. Oh, you wrote the play? Okay, well, we'll give you the reservation price.
The Sorkin discount.
Yeah, no.
No, I think it sounds...
It would totally be waiting. It would be waiting for Guthrie.
Oh my God, you should totally put in the front row, right there, just a little sign on a chair that says like reserved for Aaron Sorkin.
Oh yeah, no, because that wouldn't freak out the high school kids. But so anyway, I'm sorry. If I may, I can. You know, I'd like to talk a little bit more because I don't know how many of our listeners are going to make it to the show. But
yeah, but why don't we talk a little bit about what we typically do on this show, and and bring up what we would do if we were to do something with it. Now I know that you are doing something with it.
Well, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm talking about with it. So I mean, so then, John, I guess, all right, so if we were casting, like if we were doing Hollywood casting, so I will do it from my perspective. Okay. I will do it like with the same casting that I have currently.
I'm gonna see. I didn't do this. I'm gonna quickly write a few things down.
Okay, so I'll. Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Get started while you're doing that. So okay, and I guess it was interesting because I was actually really trying to think of who I would have seen as Jessup back in 1992, and I was just thinking about all the people like Angelica Houston, Kathleen Turner, Glenn Close. Were just a few of the names. Angela Bassett, maybe Angela Bassett. Like actually, Angela Bassett now. So if I was going to do it now, who would I cast as Jessup? Angela Bassett. I mean. God, she's amazing.
Wasn't she in the latest Mission Impossible movie?
I'm pretty sure she was, yeah. So, I mean, as Kathy, I'd be interested to see like Zac Efron do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's within his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really given this a whole lot of thought for who you'd cast it with today, but Galloway,
that's Joe.
Yeah,
Demi
Joe
Moore,
Galloway.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, Zoe Kravitz, it would be a different role for her, but I feel like she's kind of like around the right age and has got a great energy for it. So that's one direction you could go. I mean, I feel like some obvious choices like Emma Stone, Scarlett Johansson. The Scarlett Johansson would she be a little old for that part? No.
I don't think so, because that role could be,
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's supposed to be, young, but I mean, probably around 30. But, so like, yeah, Emma Stone, Scarlett Johansson, that's kind of the usuals. For that, I mean, Weinberg. Who'd you go for Weinberg? Like Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen?
I'd probably go. I think I've mentioned him on this podcast before, but John Bass.
Oh, you have mentioned him before. Oh, remind me. Where do I know him from?
I don't know where you would know him from. He was in the like Baywatch remake. He's just like he's been showing up in a few things here and there, and he's been really impressive for me.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
I'm trying. You know what actually would be what would be interesting? So, and I don't think this would work, but a like James Franco as Caffey and Seth Rogen as Weinberg, and then no, but I'm thinking about like Paul Rudd as Jack Ross. Like they're all capable of. I mean, I think at this point, like everyone from that crew has done like some type of a, at least somewhat like dramatic performance.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So, that would kind of be an interesting. I would be interested in Adam McKay directing.
Oh, he's so good.
He's great. I mean, I kind of feel like, and I feel like Adam McKay directing it would be, because he does so many interesting things in his films that, you know, kind of like break reality a little bit. Mm-hmm. I feel like he would definitely make it a different film than Rob Reiner.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I would actually be really interested in seeing it as? And so interestingly, NBC was going to do a, like one of those like live theater things.
Were they really?
You know, like they do. And it was going to be Alec Baldwin as Jessup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would be.
I guess it just fell apart. But if you look up A Few Good Men on IMDb, it'll have one listed with Alec Baldwin.
I feel like he's too similar in a lot of ways to Nicholson.
Well, that's why I'm saying you gotta cast a woman. Like let's
yeah.
Like get a female actress in there.
Well, in the
Google some female actresses.
I jotted down a few names. I didn't put down anybody for Caffey, but for Jessup, I put Kiefer Sutherland.
Okay, yeah.
So have him come back.
Wow. Yes,
and,
I like that.
Kind of go into the role that he was made to play. For Joe, what?
Sorry, I my Markinson, Bryan Cranston.
Ooh, very nice. I mean, I like him, and I'd put him in anything.
Well, yeah, because I mean, he'd also be a great Jessup. But I'm like, if you go Kiefer Sutherland as Jessup, Bryan Cranston as Markinson, mm-hmm. That works for me.
So I have for Joe Galloway, I have Joseph Gordon-Levitt. For
wait, what? For Joe Galloway or Caffey?
No, for Joe Galloway. Why does it have to be a woman?
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, all right. I'll answer that question in a moment.
Okay. For Jack, I thought Adam Scott.
Oh yeah, he'd be a good Caffey too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chris Pratt.
He could play both roles. And then for Kendrick, I put Channing Tatum.
That's good casting. I've Kendrick is I've got a girl playing Kendrick.
Oh, nice.
Too. I have women cast in the following roles that are not traditionally women, and that's Kendrick, Dawson, Judge Randolph, who I forget the name of the actor who plays him in the movie, but he's in a lot of things.
Ooh, you know who should be Kendrick? Anna Kendrick.
Oh, Anna Kendrick is Kendrick. Perfect. Yes, Anna Kendrick would make a great Joe.
Anna Kendrick would make a good Caffey.
Anna Kendrick would make a good Caffey. I like her as the So anyway, here's why I was dead set on Caffey, Sam, and Joe being as written. So first of all, there are several references to Joe being a woman. And it also so for me, I also felt like, okay, so if Jessup's a woman and we're kind of making this a little bit about like, you know, feminism, because one of the like early on discussions I had with the girl playing Joe was kind of like, you look up to Jessup. I'm like, Jessup is someone that you would have admired up until this point.
Right.
And, because we have it like 1996, we have it like, she is the highest, ranking, like fastest rising female officer in the Marines. So, we kind of had it where it's like, okay, so now you have this person who you had looked up to, but now that you actually know more about them, it's kind of like, whereas Jessup becomes, so determined to stifle weakness that she, that's how she gets where she is.
Right.
You have Joe who is compassionate and is, like justice. She's so, like, she says this is in the interest of justice. And I felt like having, because that was one thing because with Joe being the only woman in the show, it also points out a lot of the misogyny. It shows you a lot of the misogyny that's, not just in the armed forces, but everywhere pretty much. And that was one thing I was like, am I risking that by having Jessup also be female? And I just was like, no, it actually adds to it, because it's, what does it mean to be good? And then, like, what does it mean to be a good man? Is it a man who's not weak, or is it a man who's compassionate? Like, who are the good men? And like, how few are they?
Right.
So it's like, there's Dawson Dawson and Downey, who are not bad people, but they're Marines, and Marines have to follow orders. But yet they've killed someone, and it's kind of like, they have a lot of trouble seeing what the problem is. And I've got an awesome actress playing Dawson. Downey I have as written.
Downey, you just chose your location scout for the play.
Well, actually,
it was just the person
Downey,
who said, you're going to be doing it in the theater, and you're just like, you're my Downey.
Well, the kid who plays
stands.
Downey he's also the son of the head of the theater department, which is not why he's playing Downey. It's not why he's in the play. He's very good. But so he kind of, is part of the production. He was part of he did, the production crew last year, but he's really very good. And he's bringing a lot of, like really nice nuance to Downey. And I think really, like, Downey is one of the characters that you want your audience to really feel for him. 'Cause Downey is just following what Dawson does.
Right.
Pretty like,
and all Downey wants to do is go back to being, in the Marines.
Well, and because Downey likes the Marine life because it's simple, it's routine.
Right.
It's Dawson is more about, like, she talks about living life, like living by a code, and having a code, and joining the Marines because she wanted that. And it's similar for Downey, but I think for her it's more of a, like, I want to stand for something.
Right.
And for him, it's I want, something where this is what's required of me, and I can do a good job at
Right.
this. He's not a scholar. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know, John. I don't know what I was going to say.
So my idea for a life beyond the stage and DVD and Blu-ray is a series that features, each season features a different I guess, legal case within the military system. And I suppose JAG, which I'd never seen, probably dealt with that a little bit, but what?
It's more like each episode
It's
is
like a little
different
thing. But this would be...
We should have Grandma on. I think she watches JAG.
Oh, yeah? I don't think that that's a good idea, but we can... I don't think that we ever need to have somebody on to talk about JAG. That's okay.
Yeah, but Grandma would be very entertaining.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, so like each season would focus on a different case. It could be one that's like based on a true story. Yeah, and they could take place throughout any period in history. It wouldn't
it sounds like Fargo style.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the only show, like American Horror Story.
Yeah, it's like that, where it's, each season will kind of have a different vibe to it. I think that Fargo is a great example, although this would be less quirky.
Well, and then there's also, and this would not be the same thing, but so you have the American Crime Story, which like they did like the O.J. Simpson one, which was good in so many ways, including the ways it was bad. I was so entertained.
Also starring Cuba Gooding Jr., who was in A Few Good Men.
Oh yeah, yes, that's right. Yes. So the series would focus on military court martial cases.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe the first season would be this particular scenario, or maybe not at all.
So would you have Sorkin be like, are you seeing Sorkin as being a part of this hypothetical TV show?
I wasn't seeing Sorkin as being part of it because I feel like when Sorkin is involved, it becomes a Sorkin thing and it has a vibe to it. It has a certain tone when Sorkin is involved.
You have a different like kind of, creative mind behind each season.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one season is like the Duplass brothers and it's like, it's more personal and it takes you away from...
It depends on the case.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is... Sorry, I neglected to mention this, but earlier I referenced, kind of how we were kind of trying to be as believable as possible. One of the other factors that went into producing this play was that a teacher who joined us last year, math teacher, served in the Navy, was, I believe, an engineer on a nuclear sub.
Whoa.
And, had a lot of experience and knew, knew a lot of things and actually knows, is friendly with a JAG lawyer, female JAG lawyer who tried a case where she had to, question a high ranking officer and kind of does what Kathy does. And, I don't think there was a code red involved, but like kind of got,
Unless you needed to get jacked up before the courtroom with a...
jagged up.
Well, with a bottle of Mountain Dew Code Red.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's been awesome. Like, he's been coming into rehearsals and, showing the kids how to salute and like marching and,
that's cool.
Answering our questions. So that's been, it's been really fun. Like, it's challenging. It's incredibly challenging. And it's definitely something unusual. Like it's rated PG-13, cause we're keeping not all of not a lot of the profanity, but we're keeping some of it. I think I'm pushing it to the limit.
Okay.
But there's a couple of lines that Jessup has in the last scene that I was like, I was like, not until the end, but I'm like, by the time we get to the end, I'm like, I think these lines need to stay the way that they are. But, yeah, it's been it's been a hell of a ride. I kind of can't believe it's real, and that it's happening in a couple of weeks. So,
well, if anybody is in the Seattle area or will be in the Seattle area, Google it.
Yeah, November 7th through 9th, and then 13th through 15th. Free admission for anyone. Free admission for Aaron Sorkin. Free admission for veterans. Anyone currently in the service. Free admission.
Cool.
So
let's talk about what our next episode is going to focus on.
Yes. So our next episode is another gem from the 90s, though not quite as Oscar nominated.
Probably a few Razzies.
It might probably get a few, and maybe an Oscar nod or two for, I don't know, like costumes. What we're talking about here, Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes,
3 Seashells,
Demolition Man, Sandra Bullock, Sandy Bullock, returns, Rob Schneider.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Dennis Leary. Otho from Beetlejuice is in it.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway, we're going to be talking about Demolition Man.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's going to be a lot of fun. That one is streaming on Hulu in case anybody wants to refresh their memory or watch it for the first time before listening to the next episode. Dan.
Have fun.
Dan, good luck with the rest of rehearsals. I know that we still have we're still going to be recording before the show goes up, but I think it's really cool that you're doing A Few Good Men, and it's I'm really glad that we had an opportunity to talk about it on the show in advance.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I will keep y'all updated on how the show goes. And I will. That is a good journey, man.
Good journey.
Hello, I'm Jay Sherman, and this is Coming Attractions. Tonight, we'll be reviewing A Few More Good Men, starring Jack Nicholson, with co-stars Christian Slater and William Devane.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I can handle the truth. The truth is you talk like me,